Good evening, everybody. I'm tired. Sorry for the late start. I wanted to try and be a little more timely, just so I can get some rest. And I decided to have that rest a little bit earlier than planned. Decided would be a um, considerably more intentional than what actually happened. So I nodded off, and I'm arriving to about a half hour past my normal window. But we are here for more of the wonderful Phantom Brigade. Let me just load that up. We'll do the usual disclaimer, and then we will we'll get into it. I've been very much looking forward to Wednesdays as a result of the release of this game. Now, this, of course, is true with Industries of Titan as well. But the thing is that Industries of Titan actually was something I pushed very heavily in anticipation that I would be spending some time with Phantom Brigade. So it's one that I've actually been able to anticipate a little bit more because of the just because there had been such a long time between the last time I played it and then everything that that was put together for the final version, particularly because I didn't get to play a couple of the updates that they did prior to release. So there were a few new things for me to appreciate, as well as all of the things that got added in 1.0. When I was recording that Steam video, I got to see a very direct contrast between the version I was playing and then what was released to Steam. I was very surprised, but it all turned out in the end. So, with that in mind, I was given a key for this way back when it entered into early access on Epic by Brace Yourself Games. They are a wonderful group of developers, both in terms of personalities as well as the product that they put out, which is the thing that most of us probably will know them for and care the most about. I don't have the advantage of saying that because they've been nothing but kind to me, so I am as much invested in the personalities behind that company as well as their games. But with that in mind, when you're given a key for promotional purposes, it's good to say it. And depending where you live, you have to say it. Again, I am a very big fan of Phantom Brigade and all of its associated products, such as its soundtrack. But I wanted to, obviously I wanted to get that out of the way at the start. Don't heavily discount the game because I would not be playing it this much if I didn't enjoy it. But you also need to make your own choices as to whether or not it's worth it based on what you see and maybe some of your own research. Let's jump into stream. Hopefully work is going to be lightening up a little bit. The reason I say that is I did do a presentation for something I'd been working on for a while, and it seemed like people kind of got what I was trying to do with that, which is good. Now, it looks like I've got a bunch of damage which hasn't been taken care of, so let's see what's happening here. Maybe I was trying to decide between the two provinces. It's kind of a tough call in terms of where I want to go. I think I'll go to Log. There is a side of me that kind of wants to barrel into the capital, but if I keep moving through the different provinces, it gives me chances to get even better weaponry. So I think that's probably going to be how I handle it. I wonder why it's still telling me to go to the resupply point. We won't worry about that. I was actually also really happy we got to do a fight in the rain. That is definitely one little visual that I am fond of. You seem to be in the wrong place, my friends. So I think we're going to do what we did last time, which is to basically contest the province the second we get in here. It didn't seem to hurt us that much the last time we tried it, so... Pin drop. The base is tense and quiet. You can hear the rat-a-tat of guns in the distance, and the smoke is thick just ahead of you. One of your pilots tries to break the tension with a joke, but there's only nervous laughter in response. As you get closer to the fight, you see burning mechs, but they are too damaged to tell which side they might have belonged to. You all turn your eyes away. The Home Guard sent out a distress signal, an engineer says. Are we going to answer it? Now I'm going to take a minute just to review the units that I'm deploying. Ah, we've got rain again. I don't know if there's going to be too much in terms of improvements, but it's probably not a bad idea for me to just get a quick review, and we might even scrap some things. Although then again, maybe one of everything is not a bad goal. Okay, so none of these will really improve the speed. Now these will. So I've got 578 on these Elbrus legs, and that would be in contrast with the 369. So why did I seem to remember kind of debating about these before. I'm going to stick with it. I have a feeling that I'm probably just going to stick with everything as it is, but again, it doesn't hurt to take a look. Now, we've got the Sharp, which is currently using the accelerator. I rather like the accelerator, so I think we're going to keep with that. We can take a quick peek at some of the other options. So we've got the baseline, which does more kinetic damage, but it doesn't have the concussion. And then the midway is weaker across the board. In fact, the midway may be something that I scrap. Okay, what are we looking at torso-wise? I don't exactly need... I don't need this thing to be very heavily armored. It's weird that this thing is so fast compared to the Herald, but we talked about that before. The thing is, I'm not going to go out of my way to... Oh, this is interesting. So we'll see, we'll put these legs on it if I can't find another home for them. So let's see what's going on with the Manticore. I'm not really... The expanded magazine is so ridiculous for this thing. If we get a chance to... So this one has a very, very narrow set of improvements. Effectively, I need to simultaneously increase the speed as well as the defensibility. And if those two things aren't satisfied, I can't upgrade the torso. So in the case of all of these, the mass is higher. Now, there may be a version where, you know, I can mess around with the, you know, with the power, or I might have, you know, a generator that I can stick in the body or something like that. But for the most part, I think we should prepare for long-term light torso on this. Same story with the legs. Again, if I get a chance to improve its speed, I'll take it. This one is actually a little tempting. Slightly higher mass, probably due to the hydraulics, but better heat dissipation. So I think we will put these legs on. Nice. I suppose if I wanted, I could also put the hydraulics Mark II on it, but honestly, it didn't really hurt the speed. Let's see, generator Mark I. Okay, we can make this thing a unit faster. You know what? Let's go with that. Projector is the last one on the list. So the concussion for the machine gun is a really nice feature. The Hurricane is a really impressive weapon in terms of its damage, right? We can get another 140 out of that, but again, concussion has been the sort of thing that wins us battles. Now, I'm intrigued here. The scatter and the optimal range changes a bit. I think we're gonna go for this Typhoon. It's a set. Both of them are Typhoons. Just that one has slightly better damage. And again, we've been able to get so much scrap. I keep calling it scrap. It's actually salvage. Well, salvage, and I'm specifically interested in the parts, but we've been able to get so much because of the combination of this weapon and the heavy weapon. So if I can continue along those lines, so much the better. Now, speed is not the only consideration for this unit, so in fact, defensibility is a fairly major one too. So I might be tempted by this Nox. I guess the big question I need to ask is why. In fact, it lowers it to a heavy, so we'll just leave that. We'll leave that be. Now, on the other hand, I also don't want to make this unnecessarily slow. So as nice as it is to have, you know, one of these arms, I'm giving up a bit of weight. Well, that's not entirely true, but here I'm giving up protection. So yeah, the Asgard legs would be nice. Actually, honestly, they're not that bad. So I kind of take them away from the unit that I was originally going to give them to, but I'm going to keep the skinny shield arm. I mean, this is a very skinny shield arm, so I may want to reconsider that choice. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the longbow and see if there's anything we can do legs-wise. So, I mean, we can make the unit even faster. Could also put these heavy legs on. How much you want to bet that we can stick that? Wait a minute. Well, it doesn't even matter, so let's keep that generator available. Well, go. Herald needs it a little bit more. Yeah, so both the longbow and the Herald have good speed. I may reconsider the role of the longbow, but I'm pretty happy with this team as it is, which does make me wonder, maybe it's time for me to start getting rid of a few items. So let's take a look at the upper body. Let's say I'm going to start getting rid of stuff by level. So in this case, the level 1 is level 3. I really got to figure out how I want to work with my parts. Because I'm going to be drowning in reactors soon, I think. I'm probably going to make a... Well, we don't need to keep this Typhoon. I also don't really see a reason to keep the Slug. I feel like I have too many shields, so let's keep a light one these two can go away. This is a level 3, so I'll keep the Ajax. Not quite ready to give up on the weapon modules. And we're actually really short on legs. So maybe we'll keep those ones, but again, I'm trying to lighten my inventory a little bit. Okay. Let's see. I didn't even review the mission. What have we got? So we're up against the army. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units on the battlefield. This could be a turret. I think we should be able to get through it. Even if the music doesn't seem to think so. No, it said it was easy difficulty. Yeah, so as anticipated, this turret there. That may cause some troubles for us. Commander of the base is circled around the perimeter. We're ready to pick the squad up if needed. Oh, the enemy will hold the save. So, IFF response negative, treating us hostile, requesting immediate reinforcements. So, what have we got here? I do have an option of kind of an early attack on the turret. It's a machine gun, so that's going to be a meaningful challenge. And one thing that makes it an appealing target is that if I can get my my heavy machine gun on top of this firing down, you know, I basically take out this unit. Now, as it is, this unit's attacking the heavy gunner, so I'm going to go a completely opposite direction. I'm going to move the unit up here. We can do a little bit better distance-wise. So in this case, we're going to try and ruin the sniper's day. But with that in mind, I also need to make sure that I protect my herald. So I want to make sure that we're moving in a way, number one, that preserves. I want to make sure that I move in a way that preserves my existing units. But I also want to make sure that I'm still able to sort of move offensively. Okay. So I need to wait for my ally to get out of the way. I've had better opportunities, I'm not going to lie, but that's what I've got. So nobody collides with each other, which is good. So one thing I would have liked to do slightly differently, I feel like, oh yeah, I do have another unit. So the marksman rifle really comes into its own here, and that's going to be to eat the tank. So I got to be a little careful in terms of how I maneuver, but yeah, I was a little worried about that. Essentially, I need to wait. All right, I think I'll have to live with that. So the last thing we're going to do is just figure out what kind of sort of cheeky little shots I can do with my unit with an assault rifle. So for some of these, the goal isn't really about peak efficiency. In this case, one thing I'm trying to do is just simply maneuver my units in a way that lets them do any kind of damage to the enemy. So one example here would be the sidearm. See, actually my best opportunity is to... Alright, well, that's life. Live it. So, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I kind of wish I was doing a bit more with my units, but I am getting a few important steps taken care of. Oh, sorry, I just saw an alert for something, and I'm a bit worried the stream might be down. Just give me a quick second to see what's going on. Okay, looks like we're okay. But yeah, so as far as this turn is concerned, there's two things I don't like about it. One is that I feel like I could be making better use of my units. I should also note that there is a window in which this unit is still fully attacking my... yeah, that doesn't work. I shouldn't have messed with that. Okay, that works slightly better, but I am going to have to redesign the... I'm going to have to redesign the turn for the Herald. Okay, let's first of all make sure nothing collides. It does, unfortunately. So we'll worry about the sniper later. I don't see how this attack can be working at all. The upsetting thing about this is that this isn't actually the problem I had with the turn, and I'm spending all the time fixing that, but that's okay, we'll work it out. Okay. Now there's absolutely no rush for the longbow to get in place. So wait it out a little bit. Move them in range. There we go. So yeah, so the couple things that I don't like about this particular round, this unit is exposed, so the assault rifle can do 484 damage. It's actually doesn't list the number of shots, but it should be the same as the Herald. Well, actually I can infer it because it would give me per hit, so what are we looking at here? About 5 shots. So, you know, is it going to be enough to take off a limb? I don't know, because, you know, we only have about 200 health on each arm, right? So it really only needs half of them to hit an arm, and I could be in trouble. So that's one problem, right? Actually, it looks like the way that I set this up, I'm now fully exposed. So I seem to have moved it to a worse position. So that's one problem that I've got with the way I set up this turn. The other problem is I'm not really making the most of my fire. And while that would be okay if I was getting a better position, in the end, this unit that's fired its machine gun is probably going to wind up having to try and escape the turret next turn. But the virtues of this turn are that I should be able to take out this tank right away, and it's very likely we're going to be able to knock out the sniper ahead of time. So we'll see how the turn turns out. Looks like I had a friendly fire incident there. Don't see a lot of concussive damage, sadly. This unit, however, is making up for it. Okay, we may wind up taking out this pilot just because of the torso damage. So, damage-wise, our heavy's completely untouched, which is good. Tank's taken out, this unit's taken out. Hopefully we keep the scrap. It looks like we're more or less out of the woods. There may be one... Mind you, it's only gonna... It could be that only one more bullet is required to take this thing out, so... but as far as this turn is concerned, like, we could potentially end it this turn here. So definitely looks like the enemy wants their revenge. Interestingly enough, the machine gun is actually a very close range one. So the question I'm faced with is, do I want to keep delivering on this enemy unit here, knowing that I'm going to have to cover some of that in terms of repairs, or do I count on my people to be able to take this thing out? So it's got 370 torso left. I can get away with 564 damage on it. There's no way we're taking this thing out by concussion. Or if we do, it's going to be from sort of behind shots from other units. So we'll get into position for those. Try and maintain the optimal range as the enemy's moving. Yeah, I think we're gonna go all in on this one. This is going to be one of these funny cases where it's actually preferable to use the sidearm. I wonder if I can... So it does mean we wind up hitting the shield for the most part on that, but in this case, this is all... Really, right now, this is all about doing as much damage as possible in that window before they fire on my ally. The rest is preparing for the next turn. Okay, let's see how it turns out. Looks like that unit doesn't perish after all. So it looks like my machine gunner is going to have a bad time. If we can take out the enemy legs, that's good. That's a possibility. But I don't see a situation where the primary weapon is down. So this is definitely a gamble that I took, which isn't going to pay off. Nope. Spoke too soon. Little damage on the arm, but not a catastrophe. So, pretty straightforward battle for the start. I'm happy with how that turned out, although I probably wound up taking a little more damage than I needed. Unfortunately, this defender didn't really have anything. Our heart and soul. Someone plops a large crate onto the table in front of you. Slowly you look up and take in the proud face of one of the townsmen. He beams at you, his mustache twitching in glee. We don't have much to give you, Brigade, but this is the heart and soul of our town. He gestures to the alcohol in the crate. We make it all locally, right down to the glass and labels. You did us an enormous favor, so it's only right that you get to take some of our heart and soul with you. The townsman preens, and one of your pilots whistles at the offering. Please enjoy and come back again sometime. So we can drink now, or we can save for later. There will be better occasions. Token of appreciation. Thank you for your help, Brigade, says the woman from the settlement. She brings out a cart full of scrap from her house. Sitting atop the stack of dented armor plating and military provisions is a container, its casing worn and aged. We've been scavenging around abandoned houses and invader facilities, she explains. Honestly, we don't know what half of this stuff even is, but you can help yourself to whatever you want. It's the least that we can do for you. Thanks again, Brigade, and good hunting. She leaves. You peer at the old container in consideration. So we can open it, take and investigate the contents, we can store it, or we can leave. Now, I am tempted to open it. But I get the feeling there's a lot of events that do involve, like, storing closed things, so we'll place it in storage for now. We'll see whether or not that pays off. I'm going to go back to cruise for a little bit just so we can repair. Okay, there's battle site, so as soon as we're repaired, we'll push ahead. I don't suspect I'll want to use most of the stuff that I got off of the last battlefield, but you never know. Take them out. You followed a distress signal put out by the Home Guard to squash some enemy forces at this battle site. One of your pilots is jumpy. They mean business, Commander. They really want to win this war. Another shrugs. I reckon we can take them. What do you think, boss? So we will suit up. Sorry, if you can just give me a quick second here. I really need a sip to drink. And I suspect it's probably a more quiet night tonight, but I'm just going to do a quick chat test. It's mostly just because of that warning message that I saw on my screen that sort of vanished. Yeah, looks like we're okay. So just bear with me a quick second here, sorry. Okay. I probably should have taken a look to see what I picked up. There was an assault rifle on that other unit, but Doesn't seem like it was something we wanted. Again, the legs are too... I have this feeling I'm going to be debating about those legs for a while. Okay. This should be a pretty straightforward run, but as always, we just want to see if there's anything we can do to line up our interests. Most of the stuff's too heavy. Hang on. Yeah, so the hollow plate actually makes these fairly unfair comparisons. If I find a Nox 1L that's a higher level, I'll look a little more carefully. But honestly, it's hard to... It's sort of hard to complain about the loadout that I've got with me right now. Like, we haven't been running into any obvious problems. The only thing that I would like to do differently is to have a melee unit in the team. But the question is, do I give up the longbow for that? The longbow is really good at munching tanks. The Protector hasn't necessarily been that big of a playmaker, although I do feel it's nice to have a... I feel like it's nice to have a... like a, well, a Protector unit. And, you know, I've always had a harasser like the Herald, so... I don't know. We'll see. I feel like there's something I can be doing differently. I'm just not sure what. Okay, missiles are something that caused me a little bit of grief. Sierra 2 on the field was taking so long here. Surround them and finish them off. What am I looking at? So, a railgun repeater. Now, this is where... Okay, stuff like the railguns are where I start to really suffer in terms of my loadout. So I hide behind buildings a whole lot. The railgun is exactly the sort of thing that the enemies wants to use to stop me from doing that. So the railgun is the first of the troubles. We've got a tank with an assault rifle. Okay, so that's 2 railguns. And a weapon with a snail. It's a very straight firing arc on that thing. Okay, so I think the railguns are public enemy number 1 as far as getting my heavy weapon working out. Now, first thing we want to do is take a look at who's being attacked by these things. Okay, so nobody's targeting the Manticore, which is good. In fact, it looks like it's the longbow and the herald that are being attacked by the railguns. That's even more advantageous because they're the fastest moving and the most likely to avoid damage from the enemy units. So the first thing I want to do here is move the Vulcan up into a position where they're going to be able to really, like, really punish the enemy unit. Now, it's a little delicate here because they're moving, right? So I want to make sure that, see, the way that they're crossing the battlefield actually makes for a, like, it could be better in terms of how the attack's going, right? The tricky part is I'm not 100% sure how I fix that. Like, I can go a little bit further back like so. Well, okay, so let's try that. So we move back. Wait till they come into range. So they start here. Now that kind of pulls it into next turn, which I'm not crazy about. So maybe we split the difference. Okay. Now clearly I'm going to have to move the rest of my team. That's not a big problem. I am a little worried about the assault rifle though, so the best option for me would be one that lets me cause friendly fire. Well, it starts with a little bit of friendly fire. Okay, so this is a little silly. I shouldn't be hiding from a tank, but I do get to pop out and take out the tank shortly after. I don't want to get hit by the extra spread, so it's a little late, but I think that's... Well, hang on. I think we can tighten up that move a little bit. So once this is done, I don't actually need to hold that long for this to have its intended effect. Actually, this is a good place to wait too. So what's nice about this is if this unit turns around and decides to start causing trouble, I've got cover that I can hide behind. Although it's a railgun, so cover doesn't really mean the same thing. Okay, I actually kind of like... So I wasn't expecting to move the longbow that early, but that definitely clarifies the turn. I shouldn't necessarily bank on this thing being knocked out this turn. One thing I may want to do actually is just cause my herald to sort of bound across the battlefield and start working on the enemy units. Now, last I checked, the railguns didn't go through hills, but I probably don't want to test that. I should also be aware of the fact that this autocannon's almost certainly going to open fire on me at the start of the next turn. So the Herald might take a little bit of damage, but I still think this is worth... I think this is worth putting some effort into. So the last unit that hasn't done anything is the Protector. So let's dash them. Oops, I don't want to dash on top of the building. Yeah, thought that might be a problem. Okay, it's not my favorite move to commit to something over a turn, but in this case I think it's justified. In fact, I wonder if I can dash and fire. Nope, because then I have the heat problems. So what I'm trying to do here is set as much of the turn towards firing this machine gun as I can. Okay, so we have a couple of problems. It's mostly about the collisions. Okay, so first big problem is I still have the collision with my heavy machine gunner. Still clip my own guy, darn it. Okay. It's a little different from the last one, but it still has the main features that I'm looking for. So the only remaining collision we need to worry about is the ally. And really the ally is just kind of moving up right now. So looks like we do have a dash available for them. So I actually have a really specific plan for what this unit can do. And it seems to have endless amounts of heat. I can see why, because it can't move otherwise. Okay, let's try something a little different. It'll have to do. There are things that could work a little bit better, but it serves two important purposes. One, it gets the unit out of the way, and then number two, I'm going to be able to, I'm going to be able to basically force the enemy to start thinking about a few other units in areas that may not have normally been convenient. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the AI was trying to do with that, because it's clear that the enemy was never going to be in a position, like, unless I knock down the buildings somehow. I just don't really think it was realistic. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm just going to have to move up to a good vantage point. That's a shame. It feels like a little bit of a waste for that unit, but... And I'm going to... Oh, yeah, actually, I want to be careful about this one. So the most useful thing that this this tank can do right now is move in a position that's going to cause the rocket to sort of fire into the side of the hill. So if I move it up, doesn't fix it. If I move it back... Okay, so it's unavoidable at that point, so then what I'm going to do... Like, the rocket's obviously going to come after us no matter what. So I might as well, you know, hide behind the hill and see what happens. So, lots of jets at the start. Let's see how it turns out. How you doing, Algrins? Thank you for keeping me company on my lonely stream. My fault, though, I started late. Okay, so the railgun... Okay, important note here, it does go through the hill, but it didn't ultimately do that much damage. But we know what we're waiting for in terms of the show. Okay, so looks like the missile did successfully fire. That was a thing of beauty in terms of the friendly fire there. So far the Herald's untouched. And this guy is already concussed. So we may actually wind up losing that unit to damage. Are they here for the cargo? Security team, make sure they don't breach our defenses. Okay, so there's definitely a few missiles on the way. I'm not 100% sure what the best way to protect my tank is. I honestly think probably just keeping it in position here. So I'm definitely happy with how it's spending most of its turn. But maybe we can hope for a little bit better. Because obviously this thing's really good at outrunning the shots. Well, here's what we'll do. Okay, we'll run this thing through to completion, and then we'll get them to mop up the tank. Ooh, I don't like that at all. That's a little more acceptable. So, as we expected, this thing's going aggressive pretty much immediately. But I get a precious couple seconds to make myself scarce. So I think in this case we'll go after the... Actually, I wonder if I dash, does that accomplish anything? Yes. Cool. Okay. So we're going to go for an attack from behind. We probably won't be able to do the full concussion, but I'll get as close as I can. So that maximizes the damage that's coming from the Herald. Our allies taking out the tank on the side here, or trying to get as close as they can to it anyway. Now, let's see what we can pull off here. So we are firing away. Now the problem here is that the railgun basically ignores all cover, so the best I can hope for here is just to put something between myself and the shot. That's already too late. So you know what? My best option is just to ignore the problem. Oh, this is going to be fun. Ah, it's not going to let me do it. How heavy is this thing? Medium? I think I can just stand still and it's still going to wind up crashing. So, there is a little bit of logic behind moving my heavy. Like, you'd look at that and say, what was the point of doing that attack if you were just going to run away? It's clear that they would have fired on me anyway. The difference here is that I have this tank in a position to be able to give my team some backup. Ooh, they should have anyway. I didn't really count on this terrain, so it's a little bit of a complicated angle. Oh, I don't like that angle at all. Well, I'll take the shots that I can. How on earth is that? Ugh. Okay, now the other thing that I can do to sort of angle things in my favor is to try and get a sniper shot on this unit. Now this is a little harder than it looks, because this unit's kind of hogging the direct line forward. So I can try and cover the distance, you know, from behind. Actually, you know what? Maybe I just ignore the possibility. I jump up on the top of the building once heat permits. And we focus on this unit. We may need to... yeah, I need to change the angle a little bit, but... logistics are complicated. You're kidding me. I'm assuming Nikita lovingly crafted this level, specifically thinking about me wanting to do this very thing. Quietly cackling. This is really gonna mess with him. Alright. I'm gonna still go for a Hail Mary on this. But I can't really expect wonders. There is the remaining question about what do I do with my Vulcan. So I'm assuming that's going to just hit the side of the hill. No. Interesting. Okay, let's give it a shot. So again, I'm deliberately keeping this tank in place because I want to see what happens with the missiles. There's a couple details I'll see on the replay. Actually, we can put... Yeah, so they wound up banging into the side of the building. There's a ton of stuff that happened that I wanted to account for, and I messed up. That's fine. That's what the replay is for. So no scrap for that one. So let's watch this on repeat. So the first thing I wanted to see was what's going to happen to those missiles, and as expected, they went into the side of the hill, and that's all 4 of them. So the shotgun tank is now free. It's kind of neat to actually see that it was the ally that wound up taking out the legs. Also the primary weapon. So this thing may wind up ejecting anyway. Now looks like we didn't take out this tank. Actually, it didn't take that much damage overall. What I am curious about, did anything from this marksman rifle hit? I don't think it did. Not that we really needed it to. Obviously, there was quite a bit that we did. Now, I am also kind of curious how things turned out with the machine gunner. So we started moving right away. Yeah, they fired through the building. We still took quite a bit of damage. This is the drawback of having the weak arm, obviously. How you doing, Olaf? Good to see you, as always. Okay, this is basically what I want. The only thing I'm going to do differently, I'll hold position, but I feel like I can dash and get a better angle on the enemy unit for the rest of the turn. Okay, shotgun tank, I don't see a whole lot of... I see a stronger possibility of friendly fire than anything, so we're just going to move that tank up. That pilot's concussed, so we will leave them in peace. That pilot's concussed, so this is really just a story about... this is just a story about this tank at this point. So I'm going to move people into positions where they're not going to hurt anybody. So this is a job for the Herald, which can get into position pretty quickly. There may be a friendly fire problem with that, so I'll keep moving until we can get to the side. And is there anything the longbow can add? Yes. Okay, if we don't take the thing out, if we don't take the thing out by then, we don't deserve to win. There's no way this thing is staying for scrap. Oh, I may wind up putting this through my heavy. Oops. Stop! Stop! For the love of God! At least it's kinetic barrier damage. But look at that concussion. Oh, I'm an idiot. So this thing's still going strong. Jesus. 4 health left on that Ranger. I was too eager to finish the turn. little overkill at the end there. We're backing them into a corner, just a little more boss, and we can get to those civilians. So at least the allied units didn't take damage, but I do feel very foolish about my heavy, because concussive damage obviously lasts longer. So as usual, we start by picking up the rare and uncommon items, so it looks like we will be adding the railgun to the list. In fact, it's a pretty good item. 666 damage and 15 concussive, so that may be something I want to consider putting onto the... I may want to put that onto the Herald. Been a rough couple of days, but I'm okay, just chilling out with some system talk before I crash out. Well, number one, I very much appreciate what those days are like. I've been having a lot of those myself lately. But more importantly, I know the value of that downtime. It actually makes me feel a little bad that I was late starting, because I know how late it winds up being in your neck of the woods. So I wish I could make it better. But I do appreciate that you're choosing to spend that precious time with me, and it is not lost on me that that's a big vote of confidence. So thank you. But I do wish for something a little bit better than just well wishes sooner rather than later for you, Olaf. Let's see. At this point, probably torsos are what I want to group. Okay, well, we've got the torsos, so anything that gets us 38 is the next best. Okay, we got 5 more, so at this point, I think it's probably better we just call it a day for the scrap. I was talking a little bit earlier, so I've been working very hard at work lately, and I don't know why, because I definitely feel like that work is not appreciated. But I do... One of the things that I've noticed about where I'm at, and like, the way that I say this stuff definitely makes me sound like a big jerk, and it's possible I'm a big jerk. But one of the things that's bothered me is that a division that I used to be in had sort of a reputation for being a good analytical group. And in fact, it was like I had... For whatever reason, when I was being hired by this place, my application actually wound up in 2 different divisions. And so I had this situation where, like, you know, both of them wanted me, and I had to choose, you know, one or the other. And, you know, I wound up trying this analytical place first. I mean, the thing is that the reputation is probably unearned. But, oh. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what on earth this story is here. Oh, I just misread it. It says, I saw something that said platform, and then I thought it said phantom. So I was like, wait a minute, why would this thing know that I'm doing Phantom Brigade? But I'm just not reading things right. Yeah, anyways. So spent longer there than I should have, but then I moved into this other place. But I think one of the drawbacks is that there's the, you know, it's like any place that you work, right? The qualities that get you ahead are not necessarily correlated with doing good work. And so one of the drawbacks is that I have a particular set of things that I know I have a strength at in terms of my analytical capabilities. And even if it's a quote-unquote minor job, I actually tend to take the stuff I do quite seriously. And part of that, to me at least, is about sort of kind of the preservation of my work ethic, I guess, as much as anything. Because if I'm completely honest with myself, one of the things I'm most worried about is having an easy job where I just phone it in, and I never get out of that. And I, like, clearly if I stay in that, I've demonstrated some kind of happiness with it, but like I don't like working with people like that, and I don't want to be someone like that, particularly because I do actually value my ability to do analytical work, and at least in a work context, it's serious enough that somebody's paying me to do it, and that generally they're paying for access to the data that I'm using, or generating it themselves. But I do notice that there's about an even mix between things generated through our operations and then things that we're combining with other sources. But the problem is that I've been running into a lot of work lately which really does not seem to be like, there are certain expectations in terms of getting the kind of role that I have. I went through a screening process like everyone else. Obviously, we've talked about this before in terms of feeling like my career advancement has been quite a bit slower than I think is entirely fair. And one of the justifications that you will hear on things like that is like, well, here are the things that you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And the more and more that I have been spending time doing this, the more I'm sort of looking at the work that people who are already in the sorts of roles that I want really not delivering. Which, again, this is a common... this will happen in any workplace, right? There are going to be the people who do well, and like I said, that's not always correlated with doing the best part of the job. And this sometimes happens. Sometimes it's just a sign that you need to go somewhere else. But the thing that makes this very difficult is that because I will put that strong effort into the work that I'm doing, it can usually mean that when I'm getting close to a deadline, or when I'm getting close to like delivering on something, that's usually when I'm sort of crossing the T's, dotting the I's, making sure that everything is in the state where it needs to go. And, to the credit of my direct managers in that, when I deliver, usually the result is very, very positive. So at least in that sense, that can give me a little bit of gas in the tank in terms of the fact that there is at least at some level sort of a recognition in terms of the quality of the work that's being done. But, with that in mind, because I'm sort of collapsing in on a lot of different deadlines, and I will confess, like, there is a project that I've been doing lately, which has been a very long-standing project. And it does kind of feel like the people who were working on it before were enjoying a holiday before I was on it, because I think there was some very basic stuff that wasn't done. And like, I like doing the fun parts of data analysis too, but it's really important that you do the hard parts first. Otherwise, the fun stuff doesn't really matter. So anyways, that's a really long way. I could have put this in a much simpler sense, but like the thing is that I have an appreciation for the, like the strong effort and then just being able to take that relaxation time. The thing that does bug me a little bit is that all of this time that I've been spending on these work-related things, it has kind of come at the expense of some streaming things and related projects that I would like to do. But, I got to do the best that I can with what I've been given. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that big of a rant, but got it off my chest now, so... Pin drop. The base is tense and quiet. You can hear the rat-a-tat of guns in the distance, and smoke is thick just ahead of you. One of your pilots tries to break the tension with a joke, but there's only nervous laughter in response. As you get closer to the fight, you see burning mechs, but they are too damaged to tell which side they might have belonged to. You all turn your eyes away. The home guard sent out a distress signal, an engineer says. Are we going to answer it? Suit up. So what's the deal here with the protector? Did I mess up and not let them fully repair? Yep, that's exactly what happened. I should have paid closer attention. I did not need to rush the way that I did. Okay, that's fine. We just won't do any upgrades for the protector. I don't think it'll affect anything, but I don't want to mess with the... I don't want to mess with that anyway. Well, this is the other challenge, is like, I had some opportunities to go elsewhere, and didn't take them kind of on an assumption that some things would get better. And there've been a couple of times now where, there's a set of expectations and they don't really turn out. So that's usually a good indication that I should probably be finding another place to go. But the thing is that the environment, I'm not using a different mic, but is there something, like, does it sound worse, Vanguard Master? If anybody else is noticing it, I'd like to. One thing I do notice is that the sound for the stream sounds a little more quiet. But no, you'll all know when I have a different mic. But yeah, no, one of them was a gaming company. Well, I mean, I can say what it was. I had a job for Ubisoft lined up. I think one of the drawbacks was the pay was quite a bit less than what I think I can command. And part of that was, like, there was another opportunity that I might have been able to follow up after that. But, I don't know, like, I don't want to, it's better to sort of take the bird in the hand. Like, if somebody gives you an offer, then good. You, like, that's a solid opportunity, and move forward, with that in hand. And if it was just, an early meeting, or, you knew a guy or something, then that's just talk. Like, that's not the same. But yeah, I was considering a couple of game industry things. Based on some of the other stuff that happened, I'm really trying to figure out if I have any place in games. And that's maybe a conversation for another time. But one thing I would really like to do is help more smaller developers with data stuff. It would be nice if I could find a way of balancing out an income. Actually, so I did. It's not really a business planning thing, but like I actually sat down with sort of a piece of paper and I sort of worked out. I was like, okay, so this would be sort of roughly what I would be paying for a computer. And, if I wanted, like, one thing I did was I sort of sketched out and I said, if I were to get like the full suite of analytical software where I could say there's absolutely no limit in terms of the things that I can do, here's what I would buy. Now, this is a little bit like, I don't know if I should mention this game or not, but there's a fairly famous example of a game people were really looking forward to, and apparently they like got an office in London and filled it up with like a bunch of really nice stuff, and they still haven't released the game. So the thing is, and like I knew a couple people when I was in film, like they'd pay money to. I'm not writing on paper. I'm writing it on. I'm writing on a tablet. Although I do actually really like writing on paper. The thing is that like I only have one place that sells legal pads, and they're kind of expensive. So. Did I, chat, I'm going to leave it to you. Did I write it down on paper? Because I definitely wrote it on a tablet. I'm thinking Vanguard Master's making up stories. Huh. Okay, fair enough. Anyways, I did write it down. But, but yeah, so basically, like, the plan was, that, like, so anyways, like... I wanted to sit down and say it's like best case scenario, right? So let's say, I don't know, 12 different independent developers kind of came in and said, we don't have a ton of money, but we would like to sort of retain your services for some spot analysis. Here's what we think is fair. The amount is quite small, by the way, for that number. And I said, in theory, if I could do that, here's what would get me to a point where I feel like I have the full suite of analytical capabilities available to me. And, I get a modest return on the stuff that I'm putting in, but I'm not valuing my time at all. So I kind of sketched that out and I worked out a dollar value. And then like the real number is something considerably smaller, because I don't think that there's a real point in like, I'm not going to go out and buy a new computer so I can do that. I'm going to use my existing computer. Like, maybe if I have to incorporate or something like that, I'm going to have to figure out how to divide the assets between, like, myself and the business. I kind of do that already. But in any case, like, it's one of these things that's sort of a nice to have, and I can definitely see some situations in, like, big publishers where I might find a role for myself. But the thing is that I just don't know. Like, so I notice that the biggest questions I get asked are ones that don't have a good answer with the data that people have available. When I make a best effort to try and, list the caveats or otherwise do a serious analysis of it, but also, like, try and explain the limitations, usually the result is actually very hostile. And it's a shame because the first reactions were very positive ones. So that probably didn't equip me for what the real world was like. And it is one of these things, right, where, like, because I have a value outside of the context of gaming, is one of these things where it's like, I've already worked in movies. Like, I know I can enjoy movies without working in them, and it's the same with games, right? Which is a shame, because I actually think that there's something inherently interesting about game data that you can do some stuff with. But as with anything, right, it's like any business problem that you run into. It's one thing to have an idea, and it's one thing to have a set of skills, but you also need to be able to line that up in a way that people are willing to buy your service or rent your service at a price that will make sure that you kind of make more than you're spending and afford you a reasonable lifestyle. And I don't actually have to make a lifestyle doing this thing, but it would be, I would like it a little bit more if I could get things on a footing where I could say, here's what's coming in, and now I can safely dedicate X hours a week to doing this thing. Because right now a lot of the data analysis that I do is ad hoc. There is some stuff that I'm behind on. So there's a set of forecasts that I wanted to try and do for someone for a very long time. But the thing is that they have more data available, and I don't want to... They've released 2 games recently. And I have some of the old data from one of their older games. But what I don't want to do is come to them with a request for more data. What I want to do is I want to give them the tools to say, here's something that's roughly an approximation of how I would analyze this without ever looking at the data, right? Here's a program that's basically me. I'd love to take a look at it if you see some value in me looking at this, but I don't want it to be, I don't want, any continued work that you get to be conditional on me having access to the crown jewels or something. But, again, that comes with alongside all of the other stuff. There's actually yet another game to be covered in the coming week or so. So yeah. We'll see where it's at. And like I said, I mean, I think one of the things that frustrates me a little bit about game data is that I can see probably 2 very big So there are 2 things that I've done which I thought were very good ideas, and unfortunately they were lost to a virtual machine just kind of going poof. And it turns out somebody did pick up on that and move forward. So that's nice external validation, but, in the end, it wasn't something that I was able to do. I mean, obviously, if I did it, nobody would have read it anyway, so that's, not a huge loss. There's a couple which I think are good ideas and I want to follow through on. But I want to catch up with what I'm kind of doing already. But yeah, most of the stuff that I wind up doing is ad hoc, so it would be nice if there was a little bit more structure in terms of just knowing that the time is well spent. Anyway, sorry. I'm sure there was a point to all of that, but I wound up meandering as always. So we may put this arrow arm on it. Yeah, we'll see where everything's sitting after I take care of the other units. So we can definitely afford to give up a little bit more speed on the longbow. But like, I also don't want to make it slower just for the sake of making it slower, right? Like, this thing isn't really in that much danger. So I don't think there's that much we can do with the Manticore, but it never hurts to check. So this is actually better overall. So yeah, this is the sort of thing that I want to throw on. So there's a little bit of a problem with heat, but this... Oh, actually, it's only a marginal speed improvement. So like the barrier is kind of nice, but it's not going to move the needle. Okay, so actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this all for the next turn when everybody's repaired. Commander, the base is circled around to the perimeter. We're ready to pick the squad up if needed. The enemy will hold the site if you do so. Careful not to damage key civilian locations. We're here to protect them. Actually, you know the other funny thing, not to dwell on the paper issue, I actually use a lot of paper. The problem is that because paper is costly, it winds up being graph paper. But this is how I know I don't have that many mathematicians in my chat, because I try as much as I can to write down math on a tablet. It's just not the same. Like I really actually need to sit down with usually a pencil. I will sometimes do math in pen if I have to. It always feels like I'm taking my life in my own hands doing that, but. If it's a question of like just working it, my God, they've got all the toys now. If it's just a question of sketching out some ideas, I usually do that on a tablet. I don't feel like that was a major point that needed to be made, but I did actually find it kind of funny that it was the one time. I genuinely thought I said tablet, because it's actually the time that I didn't... It's one of the few times that I do it the other way around, or set it the other way around. Okay, so pretty clear what the plan is here. This is a chance for me to put as much damage as possible on the unit with the beam. I also get a little bit of extra damage on the unit with the railgun repeater. Now, I'm a bit worried about this railgun just because there's really no defense. Like, all of the buildings are pretty flimsy. So, my best option, honestly, is just to hit it head on. Oh, I don't think I can do that because they're... Okay, never mind. So, second best is to dash when they fire on me with it. So move forward, dash. If I can do some kind of friendly fire, that's best, but I don't think that's happening. So I'll settle for the machine gun on this beam unit. Now, what's the incendiary splitter do? Experimental shotgun firing incendiary ammunition that heat up targets on contact. This isn't that big of a worry because it's raining, but we are going to use the longbow the way that we always do, which is to take out tanks. Okay, now that's a bit of a worry. It's a beam weapon too. I don't know if optimal ranges are relevant here. I'm gonna hope for the best, but I'm definitely gonna take advantage of the mobility to... All right, this turn's gonna get weird. Um, you have? Do you mind if I ask what paper you subscribe to? I'm gonna guess National Post because everybody in the West is a rabid conservative, but I have subscribed to a paper, and I do subscribe to one print publication, but the print publication I actually somewhat recently. It's been a couple years that I've been subscribed to it now, so I can't say like I've. It's like recent, but not. What's the best way to put it? Like. There isn't a good way to put it. I'm just gonna shut up and play the game. Okay, so the drawback is that this ally is sort of in the way for everything. So I'm able to do some work on this beam unit, but that's about it. By the way, I know there's not I think the majority of chat is not Canadian, so just so I can do an overview of papers, the closest thing that we have to a paper of record, I think, would be the Globe and Mail, which is probably a center-right paper, sometimes center, but I feel like the previous government, they wound up being a little. I think they wound up being a little cozy with the existing government. So I think there was kind of a bit of a shift in terms of editorial policy. The National Post was specifically founded to be a more right-wing paper. Now, again, like right-wing in Canada is very different from the States, so like just keep that in mind too. Like I'll put it to you this way. I read the National Post. Like I do also read the Globe and Mail, but like I don't read the National Post and like it's like Fox News. If you go to the opinion pages, you're probably going to see a little bit more about like how the world's falling apart because people are learning the wrong stuff in university. But like that's, you know, that's not new. Toronto Star is probably the biggest, more left, probably center left. Like again, in most, if it's mass media, chances are it's going to be center anything. I'm probably going to want to figure out what to do about these missiles now that I'm paying attention. Yeah, they pack a punch. So I shouldn't be walking, I should be running away. What are some of the others? I mean, there's local papers, but I'm not that familiar with it. Toronto Star, even though it says Toronto Star, it's definitely not focused on Toronto. But yeah, now I'm really curious what Vanguard Master. You meant you subscribe to the use of paper. You don't have the money to subscribe to the paper. Gotcha. As you mean Toronto? I'm not that much of an Easterner. Like, I know I have to be in this horrible province, but like, I'm in a job interview, I actually got asked where I wanted to retire, and I'm like, it's way too early to think about that. But the answer is obvious. Like, clearly I want to be in BC. Like, if I don't have work obligations, or if I don't have something that requires me to be in this part of the country, I would consider. I'd like to see the Atlantic provinces, but like, I don't know if I'd live there. I'd probably have to see what it's like. You'll pass on the earthquake and the tsunami. Thank you very much. You always lived. Why did I think that you lived somewhere else, Roarmonger? of Montreal. Yeah, I've been to Montreal a couple of times, and I like it quite a bit. I probably appreciate it more as an adult than as a kid, but um, yeah, no, I like BC a lot. And at some point, I gotta figure out vacation plans and stuff like that. But at some point, I would like to see the Atlantic provinces. But I think the trip to Vancouver really made me appreciate just what I had there, and how much I appreciate the people who still remember me. Okay, let's see the madness unleashed. This could be a tough one for me. We'll see how much damage we've got by the end of this. There's just a lot of mechs, and they all can do things that hurt me. So one of the things I'm interested in is to see whether or not dashing with my my heavy mech is going to help with the railgun, which we're about to see. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even need to really worry about that. They missed even before the shot happened. Man, that looks really pretty. Now, the problem here is that because I'm going to wind up splitting the damage, I may not concuss either of these two. They're both pretty beefy. So that was a nasty hit to the legs, but we're still standing. The real question is whether or not we're going to be able to dash away from these missiles in time. It's looking kind of doubtful, but we'll see. Okay, they're already out. Oh. God, I love this game. We made it. French is your first language as well, so you guess you have a local's view of Quebec. I'm kind of mad that I was able to graduate with a Master's of Arts, but like Bachelor is the requirement. Like Bachelor is the only thing that has like the language requirement. I'm slightly mad that I was able to graduate with an of arts, and not actually be able to speak French. I've got a ridiculous streak on Duolingo now. But I don't think I'm going to be able to dodge the missiles forever, so... I think we'll just leave it. We'll leave it like that. Okay, so this pilot's going to eject, which means I can redirect the machine gun towards better uses. In fact, here's a honkin' good idea. Smack into the other heavy. Stop them from causing too much grief with the... Oh, hang on. Who's firing that? Okay, so that's the railgun repeater, so that one I want to treat a little more seriously. Okay, so hopefully we've escaped the missiles. Let's think about who we're targeting with the big gun again. So it makes more sense to target this unit if I can. But the railgun's the one that's actually going to cause me problems. I'm going to change my focus. The only thing I'd like to do different is, if I can, I'd love to make sure that I start firing as soon as that guy's back's turned. Ah! Yeah, that's the best I got. Okay, next up, let's put a... this is going to be a tough one, because they're going to be using the beam on my ally. The further away from this unit I get, the better. I just need a clear shot on the tank, and then I can sort of run. And I figure I'll make the most of the opportunity by doing a little extra chip damage. So I'm not that worried about this beam unit firing on the longbow from across the map. What's your stream on Duo? Oh, Streak. Let me see where we're at. 863 days. Primarily French, but I am doing a little bit of Latin as well. I have more Latin textbooks now than French textbooks, actually. But I decided maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to focus on French. Okay, so trying to neutralize the missiles with the shield. Well, partially with the shield. This unit's down, and yeah, the rest of it's really about doing as much damage as we can. So I guess we'll see what happens with the missiles first off. Oh, that's a thing of beauty. So some of them may make it, but I'm very happy with how that turned out. Okay, so that actually wound up doing a little concussive damage, which is a nice bonus. Okay, that unit's crashing, which means it's not going to be able to finish its ejection this turn. And they're going to try and fire on me here. Okay, so they wildly missed. So again, the key here, I am going to wind up taking some damage off of the beam here. Ooh. Looks like there was another batch of missiles that I failed to account for. This could get ugly. If I lose the arm, I have to recover the gun as well. Okay, we concuss the pilot. And we concuss the pilot. Good. So we've taken down 2 units. We've neutralized 1 temporarily. Don't need to worry about the tank anymore. The immediate threats to the Vulcan are gone. So I'm going to be able to direct this weapon towards probably this unit. And then the rest will just mop up the missile unit. Obviously here we need to dash, and we need to dash right away. In fact, it may be too late. I'm wondering actually if just running... Like, I think we might be able to outrun these missiles. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run... basically kind of an excuse for me to do a big circle. Okay, that unit's just gone. I think this is going to be the one that's the focus of... So it would be nice to pick up the beam, but in this case I think it's just going to be the focus of the ordinary damage. Might as well get some extra shots in while I can. Okay, so if I just stay put, what I can do is I can open up... Okay, I actually need to... Nope, this will work. Okay, so I want to try and get a good angle on this unit just to finish as much of as I can of the shot. Yeah, it's a pretty heavy drop off after, so... Oh, then they focus on my guy, so... Yeah, so I'll just waltz along and then we'll dash at the end of the turn. That will probably not be necessary, because I move this... Ah, now that makes... Makes another one of my moves a little tougher, but... Okay, there are things I wish I could have done differently for this turn, but we'll live with that. Yeah, well, that's just it, right? Like, one of the... one, I'm just more interested in Latin, but number two, I did decide to look a little bit at Latin just because I felt that it would give a perspective that like does have some utility for the study. So all right, let's see what happens. The thing I want to see is whether or not we can give these rockets the slip. No. Running was a terrible idea. Although they didn't do that much damage. So we're hitting them on the shield side. I don't expect too much out of that, if I'm honest, but... So what we're going to do is we're going to dash... to avoid the rockets. Oh man, they're just continue. Okay, two can play at that game. Okay, that pilot's ejecting. So looks like I do actually need to run around for a little bit to shed some heat. And honestly, we don't need to get clever about this. We've already got a couple of enemy pilots ejecting, so we'll just pile on the enemy. The one big problem I have in the Latin to French translation is I'm trying to find the Latin root for ho ho ho, and so far I haven't been able to find that anywhere. But otherwise, it's a nice palate cleanser. I wouldn't normally have done this in slow motion, but I do actually kind of want to see how this missile mayhem goes. So they're going to wind up ejecting no matter what. I suspect they're not surviving this turn, though. Yeah. Okay, so that was a interesting challenge. We got through without losing parts, though, which is important. Not that much to show for rare gear, though. All right, have a good one, Romhonger. Sorry to leave on that that alarming note for you. So I think the best I can go for, I mean, like, one of these beams is going to be better than what I'm currently carrying, so I might as well take the Glory Dog. And the rest of it, I think probably what we'll do here is we'll grab the torsos. And then, I mean, the rest of it, I think we just take whatever parts will give us the extra points. So, obviously, this time I want to make sure all my units are properly repaired. So we will make our way to the battle site, but I'm not going to be quick about it. Came from the Gallic Wars, huh? The whole of Gaul is divided into 3 parts. The do I remember? Let me just see. I think I remember 2 of them. It was like the Aquitani, the Celtae, and the Helvetii. The Belgae or something was the 3rd one. Troublemakers. Your contact in the Home Guard has said that while the Home Guard is busy with a battalion elsewhere, they don't have enough mechs on the ground to deal with this pesky fire team. We're on top of them now, an engineer shouts from the front of the base. What do you want to do, boss? A pilot asks. We're ready to fight if you are. Okay, so we have a lot of upgrades that that were sort of we were sitting on. So right now this counts as hard. It's probably going to be a very difficult battle, but there are some things that I can do to give myself an edge. So I've really fallen behind on like looking at the stuff that we've been picking up. So as usual, I'm going to do the quick run of my options here. I mean, it is another point. I always keep thinking of these Nox legs, and I always come to the same conclusion, which is no. We may change that arrow arm. This one, I think I wind up giving up a little too much for it. No, you know what? The heat dissipation doesn't hurt. So yeah, it's a weaker arm, but I think I can live with that. Okay, Manticore is next. So we pretty much, it's competing priorities here, basically. I have the combination of wanting higher protection and lower mass. As it is, this Nox arm does exactly what I want here. So, and honestly, 21 on my really heavy mech, that's a, or not my heavy, like my heavy, heavy machine gun. I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. If I can get it fast, I'll be over the moon, but... Oh, that's right. I was thinking of the railgun repeater for... So yeah, I guess the question is, should I consider this... Should I consider this a replacement for the marksman, or should I consider this a replacement for the assault rifle? I don't think this railgun repeater needs an accelerator on it. So I'm going to keep the sniper as is. I may change that at some point in the future. This arrow is kind of tempting. Okay, so we'll look at the protector first. Now, as always, we want to make sure that we've got the machine gun that I mean, there's also lots of other options. So, like, if I wanted, I can give it, like, a big rocket launcher. It'll make it even slower. In fact, the only thing I really don't like about this is that I do want some speed on this unit so that it can actually get in the way of enemy fire if it has to. Marksman's a little too long range for my taste, so... Railgun's not a bad option, though. So one shot, 12 fragments, so this is probably better to think of as a shotgun more than anything. This is tempting. So why do I lose so much speed? Oh, because of the focused reactor. Okay, so if we throw an overdrive on this... I don't think it's enough yet. Tempting, but I'm not quite ready. Actually, you know what? There is one other thing I can do. I guess we try the reach. Okay, so that's down to 16. So we're still heavy. Yeah, I mean, it could be worse. Better heat dissipation on the VDAR, but... I actually don't dislike the idea of the precision sensor on this machine gun, so... Okay, let's try that. This is a rare upgrade. Yeah, I don't quite like the rest of these arms. Like, there are some improvements here. The ones that are around 50, like this Asgard arm is a really good example. Actually, you know what? I am going to go for this one. So do I want another sensor on this thing? It's really weird that I'm doing this, but I think this fits. You gotta get going, need to switch your sleepy schedule more towards Europe. Well, I think that means good things for your production, Vanguard Master, so I'm hoping that implies good things. Good luck, and let us know when you have things that you can share. All right. Yeah, I guess it's really just a question of arms at this point. Okay. So last thing I want to do is start clearing out some more parts. So it pains me to give up this Vidar, but it is old, so I really don't use these capacitors. Oh no, sorry, I use the capacitors, I just don't use the heat sinks that much. So I don't see value in the left. Okay, reactors, if I have more than 4 of one, I need to get rid of them. Okay, we're not quite at that point yet. So this one we're not quite ready to use. Oh, that's right. I wanted to see if there was something I could do with the Herald. I should probably just give up these legs at this point. Yeah, so if in theory, so the assault rifle here is 371. I do like the concussive damage that it does, but in theory, if I were to switch it to the flux, so less concussive damage. Actually, a very similar kind of profile. I don't hate this, but I am going to still try and get this unit in behind enemy lines and firing from behind, so... Okay, 5 enemies still counts as hard difficulty, so this should be fun. I also love that it's been raining on all of these fights. Just like the way the rain looks in this one. What a persistent bunch. Command won't commit any more drop squads to the site, so let's get this over with. So, usually the way planning works now is finding out the first thing that the... Oh, we've got two big guys. All right. So yeah, the first question usually is figuring out what the main target for the ultra heavy weapon is. Lots of railguns. Okay, there's a missile launcher. The missile launcher may actually be the bigger threat. So let's see the damage that these things do. 384, 432, 518. Yeah, so this missile is something I want to take pretty seriously, and it's firing at my allied tank. Pick on somebody your own size. So this is a really easy... This is probably the easiest shot that I've ever had to do. Now, it does come at the cost that this autocannon seems to be in range. So the next step is to bring the longbow into play to defend my ally. I'm actually going to use both shots because that's one that I want to make sure that I deliver on. Afterwards, though, we'll move in. Okay, so that's 2 units taken care of. Now, I guess we need to figure out... Wow, amazingly, these two are not taking advantage of the opportunity. So, we're going to change things up a little bit. I don't think this is a bad thing for this tank to do. So we'll hold them in place, but I may want to move them just in case the missile stuff doesn't turn out, so... Okay, this may be a liability, but... Oof, alright. So they kind of need to stay put because they are not as good at designing terrifying weapons of war. Okay, if I just stay put and fire... Like, obviously I'm going to be burrowing through the... Nah, you know what? That sucks. I'll just get in position for the next round and, you know, and live with it. A sniper tank? Cool. Okay, what do I do with the unit with a machine gun? We can afford to dash with the... No, we can't. Now we can afford to dash. This is a little bit more about clearing out this tank more than anything. Oh. The hills giveth and the hills taketh away. Is that really my only other... Alright. We're building our position for next turn. It's kind of a similar story with my heavier unit, just it moves so much slower, so it's gonna... Yeah, I wish I was firing more, but the good news is we don't have any friendly fire. So yeah, the criticism I have of this turn is that I should be doing more damage to the enemy, particularly because they're not opening fire on me, but moving around the home guard is kind of keeping me from doing what I want. So the hope, though, is that we're at least able to take this unit out. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, they're dodging most of the shots, so I don't think we are going to take this unit out. Yeah. Got away with it. Are they here for the cargo? Security team, make sure they don't breach our defenses. Now, we're probably going to lose this home guard unit. I always do like it when things are sort of dashing through in between shots. So, I mean, they're putting a brave face on it. Again, I suspect we're at minimum going to be crashing. But we might as well go after the unit that's causing us so much grief. Now, because this railgun repeater, like, there's nothing we can do about the railgun repeater, right? That's just going to hit us no matter what. We have the option of throwing up the shield. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to minimum range for my machine gun, and then we're just going to let her rip. Good lord. I don't know how I feel about this, but I think I'm gonna start with number 1 and number 2. I really thought I'd be able to open fire this round. Yeah, we'll go with it. Again, there's the worry that we hit our own guy, but I don't know if there's any way I can get around that at this point. Okay, now if I just stay put and fire on the enemy... I really can't afford extra damage on my guy here, but... assault rifle on assault rifle. The thing is, the Herald is designed not to be taking engagements like this. So I'm going to focus my attention on enemy units that I can do a little more damage, particularly concussive damage to. So I suspect we're going to wind up with some repair bills by the end of this one. So we're kind of all in on this one. Yeah, I mean, we've almost the entire army's focused on taking this unit out, so let's see if it pays off. Oh, hang on. I haven't figured out what I want to do with a longbow. So we'll contribute a little something at the start. Now I gotta make myself scarce with those missiles. Okay. It's not crashed yet. Probably doesn't wind up destroyed, but I'd be surprised if it's able to complete. Yeah, it's crashing. And closing in really paid off here. So we'll probably concuss them, but I suspect the unit will be destroyed because of all the firepower that we're putting on it. Well, maybe. It's a tough one. We should be turning our attention to this unit, which is... Oh! They're concussed too. Good lord, that was a good turn for us. Command needs to know security's been breached. Patrol's compromised, taking heavy casualties. Alright, I didn't even know we took that unit out, so... yay us. As always, we take... Oh! We're already over budget, so... But I want all of it. Yeah, so we definitely have some replies to do. We will cruise to the base, or maybe the battle site, I don't know. So we'll worry about repairs first, then we head to the town, then the battle site. Presumably at that point, we've won. In fact, we're at a point now where I can probably afford to do some upgrades. Okay, so there's a couple things I'm going to do. First, we're going to take a look at any improvements we can make on our units. My god. So we're at 21, so for some of these beefier arms, like this arrow, I don't hate this, because the total protection it gives me is slightly higher. The thing is, I wind up giving up a little bit of everything with this heavy arrow arm. So in the end, I'm gonna leave it on the table. Do I have another example? Yeah, 19.9. So a similar argument here, right? Like the total defensibility is technically higher once I include integrity and barrier, but I wind up giving up both. I wind up giving up a little bit of speed as well as the heat dissipation. So I'm not quite gonna pull the trigger on that yet. That may change though. So, Herald next. Yeah, I can see us using this handgun. I don't think we have a... I would love a better assault rifle at some point, but don't have that yet. None of this stuff is making me faster, which means I'm not very interested in it. Longbow. I don't think that's necessary. This is definitely the mech I can afford to lose a little bit of speed on. Like, I don't need my sniper, which is not actually putting out that much damage per turn, to be this highly mobile unit. Like, I'm running with it, because it works well, but I need to keep in mind that it's largely by circumstance that it's become such a fast unit. It's not actually a priority. I'm not seeing a whole lot of improvements here, to be honest. This is a possibility. Yeah, so it's a more defensible arm. Doesn't exactly give me more speed, but... There's a few possibilities here, just nothing that really leaps out to me as a must-have. So let's reconsider those Nox parts. So number one, I really feel like I should be doing better with this torso at this point. In fact, How much you want to bet if I switch out this heat sink? So we're at 21 now. 19. Okay. It's a little bit. But honestly, if I can replace that, so now we put a precision sensor on this thing, and it becomes a more deadly weapon. So I suppose the question is now, is there something that I can do? Okay, no, it's the hydraulics are better. Actually, we can put Mark II on that. Or Mark 1. Okay, Mark II is better. So there's something I can do to get back some of that speed. Okay, so we've made our peace with 19. Maybe I can make my peace with 18. Now, the tricky part here is I need both arms to be equally defended. So what's the worst case scenario for me weight-wise? So we go down to about 18. So this arrow is definitely not a bad one. And what about the Nox? Everything else we wind up giving up a little too much. So now that we've messed around with those numbers a little bit, we're going to do one more quick review of the different options available to us, and I think I'm going to get pretty brutal at on my part cuts. As always, just see if there's an opportunity. So 214 compared to, yeah, no. I think I might actually be replacing it with the old part. Okay, so we're at 16. Lots of ways to go faster if I give up the integrity of my arm. So I'm actually going to go so tough and say 6 only for upper body at least. Lower body... yeah, 6 only again. Right arm... got lots of 6. Yeah, you know what? We're going to go by level for a little bit. Not for weapons, though. Can't get rid of the spark handgun. And I think the rest of this stuff... like, I do want some variety in terms of armament, so I'm okay keeping a few of these around. And subsystems is always a tricky one, so... some of these are like nice to haves, just in case. You don't really use boosters, so let's get rid of those. Honestly, I don't use Mark II heat sinks. I probably have too many of the hybrid sensors and such. I'm gonna make my peace with that. I'm definitely keeping the weapon ones. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to do that is I want to start making some investments in terms of the mobile base. So I've got cruise sensing down. Looks like we are good for more settings. Right, so I think I wanted more cruise speed, but we're not going to get... until we get the rare components, we're not making any movement on that. So I've got overdrive sensing, improves the vase's vision range in overdrive mode by installing image stabilizers to counteract the high speed vibrations or high speed vibrations. Or stealth settings. I think probably visibility during stealth is more important to me. So we'll start with that. Looks like we can afford a second. Okay, a third and a fourth. So we don't have much. Actually, I shouldn't have gotten that happy about it because it's entirely possible we will need to pay for something in scrap. But I'm actually pretty happy with how that turned out. So just a quick word in terms of how we're going to be working with upgrades. I definitely want cruise speed. I don't think it hurts to have overdrive shielding and stealth efficiency, but maybe not as critical. It sort of depends. Like, it's very expensive in terms of rare supplies, I'll be honest. Now, military grade sensors, again, great for vision. We have a lot of parts that we can potentially put towards it. Scan jamming... I mean, they're nice, but the trade-off that I'm really going to be interested in is when I start picking advanced assembly and then experimental assembly. In fact, I might be at a point now because I've got so many uncommon parts. Maybe we do advanced assembly and we think about experimental assembly. And again, I like advanced assembly and experimental assembly, but the challenge is if I build those too early, I'm using my parts to unlock, to unlock more in the upgrades. I think though probably advanced assembly wouldn't be a bad place to start. And what that's kind of intended to do is deal with these gaps that I've got when I say stuff like, wouldn't it be nice if the Herald could have something better than a level 3 assault rifle? A rare one would be even nicer, but like being able to sort of build the gaps that I have, build my way out of some of the problems that I'm finding myself in. But we'll see. We're not going to solve that tonight, but at the very least we can make a move on the town. We may be out of the rain by the time. Okay, let's go stealth. Okay, well, it's a patrol. They're almost certainly going to come after us. Apparently not. Well, now they do. Pin drop. The base is tense and quiet. You can hear the rat-a-tat of guns in the distance, and smoke is thick just ahead of you. One of your pilots tries to break the tension with a joke, but there is only nervous laughter in response. As you get closer to the fight, you see burning mechs, but they are too damaged to tell what side they belong to. You all turn your eyes away. The home guard sent out a distress signal, an engineer says. Are we going to answer it? Suit up. So we already went over our units. Obviously, because of the patrol, there's the potential for reinforcements. It's also fair to say that there might be turrets here, but we should be prepared to face a pretty tricky force. So priority number 1 is going to be to eliminate as many enemies as possible at the start. And then priority number 2, if we have to dig in to try and maneuver in such a way that the enemy has to work around the buildings. The thing that needs to be the most scared in an extended fight is the Manticore. Nope, and we don't have the benefit of the rain, so we're actually going to have to manage our heat. Commander, the base is circled around the perimeter. We're ready to pick up the squad if needed. The enemy will hold the site if you do so. Okay. Careful, do not damage key civilian locations. We're here to protect them. So hopefully the map will show us. Okay, so that one, and that one. And there's no turret, so this is definitely going to be a trickier fight. We've got a missile launcher, a beam, an assault rifle, and a sniper rifle. So that sniper does total of 240. That's not a worry. That starburst missile does a ton of damage. The alpenglow does heat, so as long as I'm careful about where they point that thing, I should be okay. 224 damage. I mean, again, 224 is still going to knock out an arm on my like on my heaviest unit, so it's not like that's irrelevant, but... Oh no. Okay. So unfortunately, I don't get to let her rip with the Vulcan cannon at the very start, just because the amount of damage that these missiles do is... it's enough to freak me out. So what I am going to do, though, is bring in reinforcements. Ooh, here's a fun idea. Basically just... so this beam weapon does heat damage. But it's going to basically cook this enemy unit so that they're reluctant to fire their missile again. So even though it feels like a waste in terms of the Herald, like the Herald could be doing damage to another unit, it actually winds up performing the most important role it can. Okay, so I gotta move out of the way. So I probably also have to be careful of that autocannon, so maybe we just dash twice. Not my favorite move, if I'm completely honest, but... But the longbow gets to have a little bit more fun. So we start off against the first tank. Next question will be, can I do something to the sniper tank? Probably not, but... Or not the missile tank. Yeah, it was worth trying, though. Okay, lots to see, but obviously the missiles are going to be the real start. Let's just double check that people aren't crashing into each other. Yeah, good. Disastrous. I needed all of those to hit. Yeah, one more round of shots would have done it, but... sure what hit them. The hope here is that this unit's going to wind up getting cooked by their ally. That's a thing of beauty right there. An amazing... Okay, yeah, they are going to try firing their missile at the end. So the good news is we've escaped the worries of the missiles, which is good. We do have a small sniper problem, but I don't see that as a major showstopper. I think what I'll probably do is just walk up. So I am curious if I can just let her rip. Yep. Want to be careful with my ally. So I'm just gonna straight up ignore. I think I'm just gonna straight up ignore this tank, and let my machine gunner do its thing. So does this make sense? Yes. Okay, a little too much to hope for the second round, but at least start. Now, the best would be if I could somehow direct that beam back towards its ally, but the problem is I've kind of boxed myself in with between this tank and this and my allied unit's attacks. So actually, you know what? My better option is probably just to keep running and harass the enemy sniper. Cool. What do I do with this unit? So the beam is going to be a challenge. Oh, but it was blocking, so that's not as big of a deal. Okay, looks like they want to hurt. Ugh. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to run, try and get clever with the dash, and I can inconvenience the enemy sniper, at least until the next batch of missiles. So yeah, it would have been nice to see a little bit more heat on this guy, but can't have everything. Looks like there's a couple missiles still on their way. I'm a little worried about that, but I am curious if we're going to be able to take out this tank. Okay, so at least it crashed. Yeah, concussed, good. So now I don't need to worry about it crash. I don't think this is a mech, it's a heavy mech, so it's not like this unit's gonna cause it to crash, but it's just nice to have that insurance. Jesus! Look at that chart. Okay, that's one I'm gonna have to keep an eye on in future. Okay, not looking good rocket-wise. Well, maybe. Most of them are pointing the wrong direction. Oh, it actually looks like we got some heat coming in here too, so this may have a happy ending after all. Okay, pilot's concussed. I gotta get out of here with these rockets. And I do not want to run away near this building. Well, near is fine, but like I don't want to use the building as cover. This is probably too late in terms of the dash, but this will at least open me up for the next round. Okay, this one's gone. Change of plan then. Okay, so I'm not crazy about this thing firing missiles at my ally. I think maybe I'll wait a little bit for the... you know what? Hang on, can I just start firing? Not exactly, just gets a little bit outside of range, so... So one of the things that I'm looking at here is the amount of damage that this thing does. So the full force of its rockets are 224. No single part... Actually, that's not true. My left arm gets hurt by that. And they got a beam following up immediately afterwards. So as much as I want to be brave, this is actually one of those cases I gotta run away. Now, because this is such a big unit, it's actually going to take a while for me to get back into the fray, but the good news is that most of the other units that are active are going to be able to pick up the slack. So, I do want to make sure I'm not on the wrong side of the Vulcan. Ooh, okay. Just going to delay that by a little bit. Hang on, I don't need to delay that by a little bit. What I need to do is I need to dash. Of course I can't. Why doesn't this game let me have any fun? All right. There we go. So there's obviously heat considerations here, but... So the whole plan behind this is just to get another opportunity to shoot at this tank. I'm not really all that optimistic that they're gonna escape, but we've seen worse. It may be that they get hit when the oh, I thought that was a beam for some reason. I don't think it'll matter, but I think it's going to be when they stop to dash. A little bit before that, turns out, but same effect. Still, not a whole lot of damage, so... Yeah, actually, the dash was completely unnecessary. Well, there's a couple missiles that didn't land. Shouldn't write it off as a complete failure. Okay, this thing isn't off the table yet. Don't see a whole lot, not a lot of reason to be optimistic that we're going to be able to take this unit down. but we are in a good position to follow up next turn. Alright, that one's done. Okay, so for starters, I want to try and get the shot in the back as soon as I can. Even if they're running into like the optimal range, this is just too good of an opportunity to pass up. Also important is that they're going to be turning around and shooting at me shortly afterwards. So if I get a chance to just run away, I'd prefer to go to the right, but that puts this structure in under threat. The other thing to remember is we've got 2 turns before the enemy army patrol comes in. Now, this is eminently doable. Like we have everything that we need to be able to bring this thing home, but I need to be very, very careful in how I maneuver for the next few turns. So a heat beam weapon is not a massive threat in and of itself. I don't want to build my turn around avoiding this weapon. I do want to make sure that I'm at least conscious of it and what it can do. Likewise, when it comes to this, unit here, like I want to dash as much as I can to get them in a position to do something a little bit more stern. It's like, here's a great example, right? This is just a chance for us to let her rip on this enemy unit. Now, what I want to do with my the Herald, if possible, is move to a position where I can get a good shot from behind. Yeah, so something like this. No. But again, I need to structure it a specific way. So the big unknown here is how much heat I'm actually going to have at any given moment. So I'll try and delay this one a little bit later. And then, of course, the hope here is that we get into a position, say, we'll wait it out. I want to get to a position where I know this enemy unit's going to be, and I want just a nice long shot, basically as long as I can get on this unit sort of standing where they are. Even if it's not in an optimal range, at this point I just want to open fire with as much as I can. So the final question is, what do I do about this longbow? I think we wait out the enemy attack. And again, there's only one thing I really have available to me for a target. So if I can take out one unit this turn, I suspect we have it in the bag. But if we don't, we have a pretty serious problem in the form of 5 enemy units coming in. So this is why I'm kind of going overkill on a few of these enemy units, just because the margin of error has gotten very, very narrow. Great. Nope, that's a crash. That's not a kill. Okay, concussed pilot, so one's down. What I don't see, though, is the Herald. Oh, did I not move it the rest of the turn? Or did they crash? Interesting. I thought you couldn't crash into tanks. Okay, that's a shame, but it still turned out for us, so... Again, at this point, we take the shots that we can on the enemy unit. Even if it's not about... at this point, like, even if we think that we're able to to get some kind of salvage. Being able to end this battle fast is the higher priority. Okay, so they're firing their weapon at me almost immediately, so we'll do our usual waiting game. Okay, they have a second attack, so I don't think we're going to be able to set up in time. That basically gives them what they want. I think it's fair to say we're just not participating in this fight. So with that in mind, I think I'm out of range on this first one, so still, like, all that I'm really doing is, yeah. So I don't have that much to fear from it, but I also don't have that much to gain, so I think we'll let it be. And honestly, at this point, I probably should be thinking about what happens if the reinforcements arrive next turn. So there's not a whole lot I can do with the Vulcan, but we are going to put it on top of a building if it comes to that, so... Mission accomplished. All right. Burst assault rifle, always nice. So, we've got another 25 to play with. Seems like the best way to maximize the scrap I get from that. It is a little more important to me to get the scrap in this case, just because I overdid it in terms of the upgrades. Aftermath. Your pilots are in high spirits after a successful battle, and it cuts through their post-fight fatigue. Warm from their suits, they hang around outside the base, talking to civilians, and enjoying some fresh air and festivities. Relieved that their homes are safe, the civilians are very happy with you. Token of appreciation. Thank you for all your help, Brigade, says a woman from the settlement. She brings out a cart full of scrap from her house. Sitting atop a stack of dented armor, plating, and military provisions is a container, its casing worn and aged. We've been scavenging around abandoned houses and invader facilities, she explains. Honestly, we don't know what half of this stuff even is, but you can help yourself to whatever you want. It's the least we can do for you. Thanks again, Brigade, and good hunting. So we've already got a closed one in storage, so in this case we're going to open it. Lucky Lager. Whoa, hey, check this out. Group crowds around the container you found. Inside you see several expensive-looking bottles, their labels slightly worn and their caps dusty, yet remarkably intact. Oh, this is the good stuff, Commander, remarks one of the techs. He holds up a bottle to the light and whistles. You know that factory that used to make this stopped operations years ago? This is probably worth a lot, the scout snorts. Who cares how much they're worth? Let's just crack them open. So it is tempting for the recovery. I don't think my pilots are that worn out. So we do have 2 booze in reserve. Let's just see if that was the right call. Yeah, so Sierra would have been able to benefit from that. Honestly, if we just let this patrol come and get me, that's kind of enough for us to win out. But I am going to move towards the battle site. Okay. I'm hoping we can get a few repairs while this starts. So again, we want to get to 100%. I would have wrapped up at this point, but given the fact that we're about to liberate the province based off of that too, I think it's a good time for us to go for a little extra time. So, you followed a distress signal put out by the Home Guard to squash some enemy forces at the battle site. One of your pilots is jumpy. They mean business, Commander. They really want to win this war. Another shrugs. I reckon we can take them. What do you think, boss? So we are going to take some time to upgrade the units. I know the Herald gets the first upgrade, and that is hopefully an upgrade to the burst. So less concussive damage. That is a shame. But it weighs less, and it does considerably more damage. Not crazy about the heat generation, if I'm honest, but yeah, let's go for it. I'm not going to scrap the old burst. Okay, this Nox spot... Nope, I keep making the same mistake with that Nox body. Okay, we're going to double back to the Manticore, see if there's any good arms we can put on it. What's the story with his torso? So why wouldn't I take this? Worse heat, considerably worse heat dissipation, lower thrust. I can live with the lower thrust. We can put the precision sensor back on, so let's start there. And if I give it the overdrive core, it seems to me like we're back to where we used to be. Yeah, considerably better. Okay. I can give back some of that speed with better legs. Honestly, it's the arms that need to get better. So I think I'm going to leave that be for now. The longbow. Again, I don't exactly need 28 speed on my sniper. If it does something different, we'll change it up, but for now... Okay, no better machine guns, it looks like. I'm assuming these torsos aren't going to inspire huge amounts of confidence. So I think the trade-offs here is I either give up too much speed for a better arm. This Vidar arm looks nice. Yeah, I think I give up too much in terms of speed, or I give up too much in terms of integrity for any combination. Like, I can kind of see this arrow working in certain circumstances, but I don't know, 16 is a good number. Okay. I did say I wasn't going to focus on that. Okay, so we've got reinforcements, so we're in a very similar position to last time. This counts as a very hard mission, by the way. I suspect, again, these aren't going to be... I suspect these aren't going to be turrets, and I have a suspicion most, if not all of these, are going to be mechs. So, depending on how quickly the reinforcements arrive... I don't know, I'm reasonably confident, but this is the one where I may have bitten off more than I can chew. And part of this is going to basically be a question of how many rockets are they firing. I'm going to assume that the Home Guard does nothing. The Home Guard does actually wind up being quite helpful, but it's always good to go in assuming that I'm not going to have any help. Sierra 2 on the field. What's taking so long here? Surround them and finish them off. Okay, so as always, we want to take a look. Okay, 3 mechs. It's not the end of the world. So we've got an assault rifle, a beam, and a missile launcher, and the missile launcher does 500 per shot. Fortunately, none of these units are attacking this turn. That is an opportunity. So interestingly enough, it's the assault rifle that's coming after my... God, that thing's got range. Okay, so I'm trying to work out a fast way to get where I need to protect this unit, but still... there's no good spot. Okay. Plan B. So my usual thing is going to be to munch tanks. That's not changing. So I'm willing to take a little more damage on this round just because we're going to be, we're going to liberate the province if we win. We also have 7 turns before we turn into a pumpkin, so I want to respect that requirement as well. How heavy is this? Medium? Okay. I'm going to want to slightly adjust the allied turn, but generally it's got the right idea here. Now if this thing's a missile launcher, we can use that to our advantage too. Actually, let's just get this thing bombing the enemy here. So, mostly like that move. Yeah, I think we're going to use the turn to move it up, though. So I feel like I should be able to do more with this unit, although it does seem like heat's a big problem. So, as a second best... Okay, so I hit my own unit there. It'll have to do. So the hope here is the Herald's going to be able to tip the scales. I'll start with a dash just so we can get the heat dissipating as quickly as possible. I'd kind of prefer to use it against the other assault rifle, but I feel like at this point we probably want to protect the... No, hang on. We've already got the longbow doing a shot. So yeah, we are gonna go for the enemy unit. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with where our turn is, so let's see how it turns out. First goal is going to be to see if we can take out the tank. So yeah, if it can land everything, it does the concussion, and it was the right call to switch targets. So I don't need to run the same way that I did before. Don't think we're going to get the concussion that we wanted, but it's a good start. This unit's going to take some damage because this unit's going to crash into it. But we could be in worse shape. In fact, this unit may just die. Are they here for the cargo? Security team, make sure they don't breach our defenses. So it looks like there's a part that got lost. Yeah, so that's limited to its sidearm now. I'm going to focus... So obviously they're going to be trying to take on my... They're going to be trying to take on the Herald themselves. This sidearm does 59 damage. I don't have that much to fear from it, so I think we're just going to stand our ground. Shoot him in the back while they're... Well, hang on. We can make life a little easier for ourselves by... at least moving. Okay, so the last of the work really is just clearing this guy out. I gotta be a little careful about this. Like, oh, actually, this is a light mech, so even then, if we move up like so, if they crash into me, which they will, they're the one who who's inconvenienced. Let's try and get a better angle. Okay, so my own machine gunner doesn't have something to do right now. .398's not something to laugh at. I think the real problem here is that I'm firing my oh no, hang on. Yeah, so I don't really like spending the whole time like defending against tanks, but that seems the prudent move in this case. And of course, the longbow may be able to contribute. It's a long shot, but I don't think the Manticore really has a role to play here. I'll keep them in reserve. And my machine gun tank... Well, I mean, surely they can just... Yeah. Okay, pilot concussed. Good news there. This all comes down to... Yeah, so for a very hard mission... Ooh, I wasn't really paying attention to enemy missiles. Could have been worse. It's my new standard of excellence. This guy does not seem to be suffering any ill effects from 2 units focusing down on them. We're backing them into a corner, just a little more, boss, and we can get to those civilians. So we'll take a look and see where everyone's at. Wow, this guy's still up. Why did I think he was concussed? Okay, well, same old story, honestly. Okay, that's not where I want this unit to focus. not that bad in terms of range, but we can do better, so we'll move along. Yeah, 99 I can live with. Now, we don't quite have the same urgency. We still have 5 turns left, but I'm a little annoyed that this guy's still standing, so... what we'll do is we'll wait, and then we'll dash to confuse the missiles. That should be good for the turn. The funny thing will be is if this guy gets taken out early and this guy's still standing. Little friendly fire there. There we go. So, I mean, it's entirely possible. I didn't have that much to fear from the reinforcements anyway, but it's a lot nicer to just, you know, clear the thing. It's nice to get a clean finish, particularly because my crew is very vulnerable to, like, we've seen it. One of my pilots gets concussed, and going from 4 to 3 is a huge deal. Like, everybody has a role to play, so if the protector goes down, I don't have that sustained concussive fire / protector roll. If the Herald goes down, not the Herald. If the Manticore goes down, the Manticore, in some circumstances, can basically take out an enemy unit a turn. That's a huge benefit. If the Herald goes down, all of a sudden I lose kind of the ability to control the battlefield through my movements. And even the longbow, like, the longbow's role, ideally, is to munch tanks. So that's another thing where you can take out these annoying support units one a turn. And if any of those roles gets lost, I have to not just deal with the fact that I've got potentially a numerically superior force that I'm up against, but the danger potentially is that I have to deal with a strategy that doesn't work as effectively as if, you know, I had all of my units. But again, it's worked out for us so far. We've liberated another province, and we have some toys to play with. Probably not going to do much with these, but you never know. Let's also see, so torsos first. Province liberated. Thanks to your efforts, the enemy was driven out of the contested province. Resistance forces will hold it from here on out. Complete victory. The invaders have slunk away with their tails between their legs thanks to your decisive and bold maneuvers. Multiple messages come in from different officers in the Home Guard, grateful for your contributions. The radios are also jammed with messages of celebration that fly from town to town in the area, all happy to contribute to kicking the last of the invaders from these lands. A pilot approaches you, while the others are distracted by the celebrations going on outside the base. Can we celebrate, boss, just for tonight? I think we earned it. So this is why I've been holding on to the booze. This is a chance for us to completely recover the team. Does mean that I give up another 4 hours, but I think in this case, a proper celebration is in order. So, and I suspect once we hit play, so these things will go away on their own. I don't see them actually bothering my own people. But that is it for tonight. How are we for people, and is there anybody online? There's a few more of you than I thought there would be. Let's see who's online and what we can do. So, thank you everybody for watching. Just a quick word in terms of kind of planning for programming. My plan is to do, so there's 2 companies that kind of have dedicated stream days. That's Brace Yourself Games, who make Phantom Brigade, and Hooded Horse, who do Terra Invicta, Old World, Against the Storm. Now, there's also another company that's actually just recently released something that I would like to do somewhat regularly, and I do have Friday available, but I may be shuffling things around. So my plan right now is to continue doing Phantom Brigades on Wednesdays, but just keep in mind over the next month or so, I'm going to find my schedules a little bit tighter than usual. And if you're looking for some variety, you know, that's good news for you, but that may mean that I wind up shuffling. You know, I might move Phantom Brigade to a Friday or a Monday, depending on how things go. But I definitely intend to do this game for, you know, a nice long duration. I like it a lot. The plan is to do it for Wednesdays. That's certainly my plan for next week. But just keep in mind, if circumstances, if circumstances change, it may be that I wind up, just shuffling a couple days around, and Wednesday is one of my days where I find a little bit of flexibility. However, it is also fair to say that once Phantom Brigade's done, there is Godless, there is, there's lots of stuff that Brace Yourself has done, and so I'd like to cover as much as I can. But anyways, looking forward, I'd say it would be fair to say that I'm planning on doing Phantom Brigade. Just keep in mind that I want to telegraph ahead of time that I've got circumstances that may lead to me shuffling the schedule around, and I'll try and telegraph that as early as I can if that's actually happening. But for the rest of the week, Friday, the original plan was Cyberpunk, but that may change. So stay tuned. And then Monday we'll probably be back to Against the Storm, but again, if I have a chance to shuffle things around, if there's something else interesting to do, I'll take the opportunity. But again, if you're only here for Phantom Brigade, that will definitely be happening next week, unless something changes. Also, I should see when the next holiday is coming up. Let me just take a quick second here. It's probably second or third week of Easter, or sorry, Easter. Friday, April 7th. Okay. Also Easter Monday. So that's not going to affect, that may affect next Friday, but I can announce that next week. But yeah, we'll be good for, next Wednesday at least. But yeah, I'm going to need to put a little thought in terms of how my week's shaping up. Now, I did notice that there is one other streamer doing Phantom Brigade tonight, and that is Civic42. I do always note, I feel bad saying this sort of stuff, but I have had a couple of times where I try hosting someone and they wind up being, unworthy of your attention, let's say. And I'm hoping that's not the case here. But, I just want to say I don't know Civic42. I'm hoping that they're good. Certainly they have a very good taste in games. And I certainly want to, I want to continue supporting Phantom Brigade where I can, so I will send you all along. But unfortunately, circumstances have just been such that I sometimes just need to give, basically, if it's someone I know, I like to be able to tell you why they're worth following in that. And if it's someone I don't know, I've felt the need, a couple of months ago, there was a bit of a string of people who I felt quite bad that I had hosted. And so in this case here, I can't deal with that after the fact, and it feels impolite to point that sort of stuff out, in their stream. So, just keep that in mind. But always hope for the best, right? So I hope you all enjoy Civic42's channel. I will be back Friday, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care.